Three more questions. We'll just
All right, let's
crack on through them. First one here being a couple of people asked this, so I don't have a specific name. Sorry. But if you were a Bond villain, what would your evil plan be? And I picked this because I have an answer.
Mr. Bond, unless you retrieve the exploder key from my largest henchman, Big Niels, the estrogen will enter the city's water supplies at precisely midnight.
Mine is a space-based one. I would, and I've said this several times on the TL, I would cause a Kessler syndrome.
Yep.
And shut the sky for at least a generation. Just because I think there's a lot of people. I worded that like I was doing a Fallout post, but I'm talking about like Jeff Bezos.
Some of my mutuals.
Like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, the two richest people in the world. Both of them are pumping a lot of money into space travel. And
you're going to lock that door and keep them all here with us.
I think the concept of being able to do an off-world colony is used a lot as a sort of crutch to get away with not doing everything we can to make Earth habitable. Is to have that sort of pie literally in the sky strategy of, oh, maybe we can have like a Mars colony with indentured servitude, or maybe we can have like a moon colony or a space colony or whatever. I think that is inherently bad for us as a species to even have as a possibility. So I would fucking crash some shit into the ISS. Sorry about the astronauts, you do your best.
No, that's my thing.
I would do something to the fucking ISS. I would set off a Kessler syndrome, like impact after impact, like in the movie, what's it called? Gravity?
Yes.
And just make it impossible to get into space without getting shredded by debris for at least 100 years before the orbits decay and it falls back to Earth and you can go again.
No more space.
I thought about, no more space. No more bottom of the ocean either. Fuck everything that isn't land.
You're going to create a fish Kessler syndrome.
I can't stand it.
I think just Dev looking at the state of humanity and I was like, this has too many Z levels.
We need to be moving in 2 dimensions only.
Left and right, that's it. I think
you can maybe sell me on forwards and backwards, but it's going to be a tough one.
I think it would be an interesting plot of a Bond film to have the villain do something bad in the service of good ends. So I think for instance, steal a few nuclear weapons, but then instead of selling them, being like, okay, I am going to blackmail the governments of the world with these nuclear weapons. You are going to give everyone free housing and free healthcare. And I think that would be very, very interesting to have James Bond being like, oh, well, should I morally actually stop this? Because on the one hand, it's like very, very bad. And the more you make the villain aware of that, the more you have your villain being like, look, I am aware that I am overriding democratic governments here, but like this is an emergency and this needs to happen. I think that would be a very interesting plot of a Bond film with Bond being like, actually, like, I actually fully agree with the ends here.
I welcome Mr. Blofeld's commitment to nuclear weapon use against a major city.
Yeah, I think that would genuinely be quite interesting. And there's I don't think that's ever going to happen, because the only way you would ever be able to resolve that in a James Bond film as we know them would be for it to be revealed that it's a ploy and that actually they're doing something else selfish with it.
Exactly. It would be like,
I think if you genuinely had a villain commit to that, I think that would be like a really interesting question. For
because
a Bond film.
If you resolved that in the sort of the logical way, it wouldn't be a Bond movie. It certainly wouldn't be a Bond movie as we know them, because it would be Bond acting in the way that a sort of an agent of the British state acts already in real life. You just have, like Bond, coming out from behind a corner and shooting a guy who's going to invent cold fusion or whatever is not like that's not that different from the shit we admit to doing already.
Which, let me tell you, maybe we're just like logged into the same brain space here, but actually that fully brings me on to my second to last question here from Kale Stuffs, who asks, are there any real world periods or events that you would have loved to see someone try to base a James Bond plot on? Look how nicely that dovetails. Oh,
Operation Northwoods.
Ooh.
Operation Legacy.
What's that?
Operation Northwoods was a sort of a provocation plan by the CIA to overthrow the government of Cuba by doing literal false flag terrorist attacks in their name.
Huh.
The CIA was going to stage and commit acts of terrorism against American targets, military and civilian, and be like, yes, we are the Cuban government doing this in order to justify a war against Cuba.
Really? Wow.
I have so many things
I shouldn't be surprised.
9/11 now, but I'm not going to do it. So,
do try and bring the World Trade Centers back in one piece, 007.
007, do try to leave the black box in one piece.
A real event that James Bond.
I'm just going to keep... while you think, I'm going to keep naming actual fucking deep state stuff. Operation Ajax, the Anglo-American overthrow of Mohammad Mossadegh, the elected Prime Minister of Iran.
I think this is something that comes up a lot, and this is barely James Bond related, and this is just me using the platform that I have been given by my dear friends who are larger than me to just be like, left-wing conspiracy theories. Basically, to a man are just things that have actually happened. Like things like Northwoods, things like trying to overthrow Mossadegh.
Something historical. I think like James Bond versus the Paris Commune would be interesting. James Bond following Karl Marx around London would also be quite fun.
The plot of the video game Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Yeah.
You'll have to synchronize at the top of his tower in order to unveil more of your mini-map, 007. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't have one. Lol. Do I have one? Shit, I was too busy listening to you and Alice to actually think of one
historical events that would be interesting to have.
Dev listens to women when we speak, and that's why we love them.
That's right.
So much.
Dev is a true ally.
I am a trans ally. That's right. I think. It's not a specific one, but I think. Operation Legacy is the one that comes directly to mind. Well, I don't imagine it would be easy to build a plot around it. Operation Legacy.
Yeah. You'd have the bad guys are trying to publish this sensitive information, Bond, and you have to go and stop them. And
Operation Legacy was a project of the Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, and the then Colonial Office.
That's right.
In order to, as Britain withdrew from colonies that gained independence, destroy any trace of files of all of the stuff we did.
So that the governments that had becoming independent wouldn't get hold of them. And one of those,
we burned files and then we dumped the ashes at sea, if you want to know how serious we were about this.
One of those in particular is the history of concentration camps that we had set up. We, not personally, Kill James Bond podcast, but like the British government had set up in Kenya, which is still quite tightly guarded. They declassified documents about it somewhat recently in the last 10 to 20 years, but if you ask the basic man on the street, they would be completely unaware that we in fact ran concentration camps in Kenya, in the Boer, in India.
Yeah, it's so striking about the criminality of empire that a lot of people's sort of abiding memory of the day that their country gained independence was a massive plume of smoke from the British High Commission, totally inexplicably.
I have a friend who is...
I think, again, that would make a very interesting plot of a Bond film if Bond was told that you must track down this very sensitive information that we believe may have come to light, and it's so secret, Bond, you're not even allowed to know what it is. And when Bond eventually does track down the file and opens it and reads it, he finds a list of colonial atrocities. That, I think, would be a great, Act 2 twist. But of course, we won't do that.
That's a very Mickey in Vietnam thing. In fact, actually, specifically, I have a friend from the Gambia who recently posted about their Independence Day, and I was like, "Who'd you get independence from, there, pal?" And he was like, "Your queen, the current queen, the sitting queen. We get
same
independence
lady
from." I'm like, woohoo!
Oh my god!
How you doing?
Oh my god! No! I know my answer. I know my answer to the question of what real world thing do I want James Bond involved in?
So if you want a fucking measure for how recent this shit was, the sitting current queen is the one that a lot of these African nations gained independence from. Anyway, sorry, go right ahead.
Sorry, I cut you off because I got so excited by the
problem.
possibility of James Bond having to cover up Prince Andrew's alleged sex crimes.
How much of this can we use? Hang on. Allegedly. But it has been alleged.
And then Bond's like, wait a minute, I've done half of this shit. Like, this isn't a crime, is it? And I was like, yes, it is.
Bond, it's called the Federal Correctional Institution in Manhattan. His name is Jeffrey Epstein.